Welcome, everybody. This is Jason, and the name of this week's workshop is the Illustrated Man Part 2. This is a workshop about body overlays. In last week's workshop, we looked at how we build the overlay itself. This week, we're going to build an overlay box and then configure the overlay so that it can be applied to a sim. How do overlay boxes work? Overlay boxes apply an X tool, that's texture overlay XML, over the sim skin via a BHAV that applies the overlay's collection instance or call. What resources do we add in the overlay box? We add a new GUID in the OBJD, we replace a TXTR, we add collection values to the BCON, we edit the strings in the make action string str, and then we make sure that everything is connected in the TTAB. So before I get started, this workshop uses a template that William made for me for accessories as opposed to Morag's original overlay box. There are a lot of pros and one major con of using this template as opposed to the OG Morag box, but we will dig into that when we get into practice. The Guardian BHAV it's slightly modified from the original, so it removes the checks for supernatural sims based on a recommendation by EpiSims and the measure of a sim. And you can find that at this link. And this is also linked in the resource post for this workshop. Getting started, to clone an overlay box, we grab our template. I have provided this in the resource post. We open SimPE, we go to the object workshop pane. We open the template box and we clone it as we normally would. We give it the unique name in the scene graph rename wizard, and then we just clone it as we would any other object. Then in the OBJD, we go to the resource tree, then the OBJD in the resource list. In the plugin, we just assign it a new GUID. And here, best practice is also to rename the file name so that we know that we're making a unique overlay box. So we just rename it. In this example, I'm going to call mine Maxis Sport Overlays. Then the TXTR, we select the TXTR in the resource list. Once again, in the resource tree, we build DXT as we normally would. We just right click, we build DXT, we load our texture into the DXT builder, and then we click OK, and it replaces the texture. We commit, we save, and we're good to go on the TXTR. Then the TRCN. If we're working with a long list of accessories or overlays, we can label each accessory or overlay individually so that we don't lose track of what goes where in the BCON. What we would do in this case, we would, thing 1, we would change the label to Maxis Sport Overlay 1, and then Maxis Sport Overlay 2 for thing 2, and so on. Then we commit and save that TRCN. Then in the overlay genders TRCN, this is another cool feature of this box. You can exclude male or female from the object menu. So when the sim clicks on an object, for example, if you have an accessory or an overlay that can only be applied to male sims, what you can do here, you can exclude, for example, male sims from the object menu from the T tab by changing that 1 to a 0. In this case, because I want overlays for both genders, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to leave it as is, but this is a neat thing that you can modify in this template. Once we're done here, we just commit, we save, and we're good to go. Then we select the BCON in the resource tree. And the first BCON, the one that's 1000 in the resource list. This BCON is also cool because you can enter the exact number of overlays that you have, and it has this set to next BHAV. So it will check how many overlays you have, and then you don't have to code a BHAV for every single overlay. So in this case, the decimal value on this BCON, because I have 3 overlays here, I just enter 3 in that box. Then we commit and save. Then for the GUID BCON, what we need to do, we refer back to our notes from last week. I will have these up on the screen when I actually go into practice, but we look at our group values. So we can see that each GUID is divided into two parts. You have the first 4 characters and the last 4 characters. So we grab the last 4 characters for overlay 1. And then, for example, in this example here, we just copy those. We paste those into the hex box that corresponds to line 0. Then we copy the first 4. We paste that into the hex box that corresponds to line 1. And we just do that all the way down for all of the beacons. We commit and save, and we're done with that. Then here in the genders, or the 1002, we can modify which genders this overlay can be applied to. In this case, I'm not messing with it because we want it to be able to be applied to both genders. If we did modify it, we just commit, save, and we're done. Then the string. Select the string resource in the resource tree, and the one that we're looking for is, it ends in 12E. In the resource list, it's the make action string prim string set STR. So in the first one, we can see that we've got add and remove. These are in pairs and they go all the way down. So we changed the name of the overlay to Maxis Sport Overlay 1, Maxis Sport Overlay 2, etc. We just make sure that we keep those same pairs all the way down on this resource. Once we've entered that, we commit, we save, and we're good to go. As a final step, we select the TTAB in the resource tree, then once again in the resource list. And what we're doing here, we just make sure that the ages are all enabled. So by default, it has teen disabled, but say I want to be able to apply these resources, these overlays to teens, we need to select the teen checkbox as well. Once we're done here, we just commit the TTAB, we save, and we're ready to test in game. Okay, so let's put it into practice. The first thing that we do, we go to Object Workshop, we click on Open, and let's go to my workshop folder. It is called the Illustrated Band. So it's this one. Grab our accessory box template. We click Next, and I'm going to call this Maxis Sports Overlays. So we just give it a new name, and you can edit the description if you want. I'm just going to do that. Click on Finish. And what we do here, just going to call it Maxis Sports Overlay Box. Update. Okay. And I'm going to save it over the previous one. So we clone the template. Then back to plugin view. Make sure that we've got the OBJD selected in the resource tree and in the resource list. And what I want to do here, give it a completely new file name. Then the way that I do GUIDs is probably a little bit different from your method, but this works for me. Just use whatever method you would normally use for generating GUIDs. I am just going to grab this next available number here. And make a note of what it is. And I paste that over there. We don't really need to update because it doesn't have MMask, but I just do that out of habit. We commit and we save. Then we go to the TXTR. Select the TXTR in the resource tree. Once again in the resource list, then we build the XT, open the image, and we're just going, I shared this in the resource post, I believe, but we just grab this image and we build. Give that a quick save. Then we go to the TRCN. Like the TRCN here, we go to overlay tuning first. Well, we don't need to mess with overlay tuning. We go to our GUIDs first. In the TRCN, we select overlay GUIDs. We select thing 1. This is going to be Maxis Sports Overlay 1. So then we grab that label, we grab Maxis Sports Overlay 1. We go to where it says thing 1 here. We paste it here. Thing 2, we make this Maxis Sports Overlay 2. Last. We make this first. Then this is Maxis Sports Overlay 3. And we copy that label. We commit. Then we go to overlay genders. Not strictly necessary for this workshop, but best practice is just to relabel everything. So we make this Maxis Sports Overlay 1. We copy. Maxis Sports Overlay 2. And Maxis Sports Overlay 3. This, I really love this template. It makes making accessory and overlay boxes so much easier. So we just commit both of those. So we've done both of the TRCN. We give that a quick save. Then we go to our BCON in the resource tree, and we start with the overlay tuning BCON in the resource list. Then we go to the decimal box. Because we're adding 3 overlays in this workshop, I'm just going to plug in 3 in decimal. And we commit. Then overlay gets. So we've got our overlays labeled. Cool. Now we know what to plug in where. So we refer to our notepad. We copy the last 4 characters of overlay 1. We pop those. We select the first line here and we pop those 4 characters into the hex box this time. Then we select the second line. We grab the first 4 characters. We pop those into the hex box. Then the last 4 characters for overlay 2, we pop those into line 2. And then we grab the first 4 characters and we pop those into line 3. Then for overlay 3, we grab the last 4 characters, pop those into line 4, and the first 4 characters, those go into line 5. We commit. Then we go to genders. Now you can see by default, these all have 1. But for example, say I want Maxis Sports Overlay 2. We don't want this to be applied to females. We can just change that to a 0. I'm not going to do that, but that's a cool feature of this box. We commit, give that a quick save. That's our BCONs and our TRCNs. Now we go to, the STR. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, duh. I'm already there. So we select the STR in the resource tree, and we look for make action string prim set in the resource list. And before I do this, just want to double check what these sports overlays actually are. So one is blue and orange. I just want a descriptive instead of Maxis sports overlay, whatever it is. This is just the number 83. And then the one that we made last week. Oh, it undocked. The one that we made last week, this is blue and red. Okay. So now we go back to our overlay box. We go to the STR in the resource tree, then the make action string prim set in the resource list. And then we add blue and orange. And then we add thing 2. We just change that label to 83. And remove becomes 83. And then thing 3 was blue and red. Okay, and then we commit. We give that a quick save. So last step, we go to the TTAB. We select that in the resource tree, once again in the resource list. And we can see here, it applies immediately, and it can be applied to adults and elders. Okay, but I have a teen overlay here. Okay, so no problem. We just double check. We check that teen checkbox here. Then we commit and we save, and now we can apply it to teens. We are ready to actually test this out in game. The drawback, or for me, one of the drawbacks, is that if you have multiple overlays of one type, for example, if I want to remove all lower back tattoos, that dynamic menu isn't going to pick that up. You would have to code a unique behave that just removes those specific tattoos from the overlay box. I don't know if there's a workaround for that, but so if you need that type of behave for some reason, then yeah, maybe this template isn't the one for you. Maybe Morags does that a little bit better. Okay, so here we have a couple of sims, and we have our overlay box in game. So what we do, we add blue and orange, and then we test our female sim. And then we can remove blue and orange, and we add our next overlay. Seems to be working. And then with the guy, okay, so working for both genders. Now let's test our new one. So you go into the menu and you remove the previous overlay, and then we add the one that we created in last week's workshop, and that is working well. And that's pretty much it. That is overlays start to finish.